Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 9th talk of Creative Mornings. A little about our speaker. As you all know, that the topic for the month is minimal, and our speaker, Mr. Sandeep Sangaru, has a practice of his own. He's a multidisciplinary designer. He has a little practice of his own away from city limits, and he holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, and after which he went to NID to do his post-graduation, and he specialized in furniture design. And he's a man of few words, but his work just speaks 1,000 for him. And he also taught us that minimalistic products don't necessarily have a very minimalistic process, and what goes through it is a grueling process of a really long time and a lot of hard work, which we're going to learn about from him today. Can we have Mr. Sandeep Sangaru?
Thank you, Creative Mornings. Good morning to you all. Yeah, good to see you all, like fresh in the morning. I was asked to talk about minimalism or minimal. So I want to introduce myself. I'm a wanderer, a nomad by nature. Till now in my career or in my life, I've never been settled in terms of where I'm going or where I'm heading. So by nature, I keep exploring and observing and creating things. That's me. And I'll start with, I'm going to talk about three things. One is craft, one is design, and minimal because of the subject. And I'm going to take you to two projects or two places that I work with mostly. One is in Kashmir, another one in Northeast Tripura with bamboo, and based in Bangalore. So I'll start with Ahmedabad, where I studied at NID, National Institute of Design. Way back in '96, I joined there after my engineering, and it opened my eyes to what design is, because before joining NID, I didn't know anything about design. I was as naive and as, you say, open to learning when I entered the institute. So under one roof, I got to learn a lot of things and explored each and every possible thing I could lay my hands on within those 3 years that I was there. Next, yeah. So I want to show you this one chair that I designed. This was a classroom project and one of my last classroom projects at NID. And it had an interesting design brief that was given to us to design a chair that makes a statement. And that's it. So how do we start designing a chair which makes a statement? So we started doodling, sketching, and because the brief is so open, and when you try to design a chair that a daily object that you see all around you, it becomes really tough challenge to design. So I doodled a lot of sketches, and my faculty chose one sketch, which just was a line drawing like this. And he asked me to just replicate that chair and make it into a 3-dimensional product that you can sit on. Next. So I wanted to make it as minimal and as thin and as invisible as possible from one direction. So I tried exploring with different materials, started making models, mock-ups. So what at NID taught me was also like to be hands-on with materials. And it gave me the strength and confidence to take up any material and transform it to something that I'd like to do. Next. So NID is this beautiful facility of workshops where you can work any day, any time and build your own things. And we were mostly spending most of my time in the workshops. I think that's what gave me the strength to work with materials a lot. Next. Yeah. So when I started my company, a consultancy firm in 2004, I wanted to design a logo, and this is somehow it fell into the place. The next slide. Yeah. So again, something that is very minimal kind of finds a place unconsciously, because minimal is universal, I guess. It can fit wherever you want to fit it. It's not very strong in terms of its presence. So this became my identity then, and I started working towards my company. Yeah, so that's about NID and my work at there. Yeah, next. So I'll take you to Kashmir first, and this was one of my first professional projects in crafts, and I never had hands-on of working with crafts before that. And going to Kashmir also was quite an exciting event in my life. It was in 2004 I started going to Kashmir, and since then I've been going every 6 to 8 months and keep working there. Next. So this is how it feels when you go there. It makes you the place, the texture, the people, the culture keep changing. So this one bright summer. Yeah. So this what I saw in Kashmir, and when I went there for the first time, I thought this would be my last time, so I should do whatever I can within those few days I was there and explore everything. But these pictures are over a period of time, so this is not from my first trip. Next. So I started observing things there because I was trying to work with a craft in walnut wood carving, and that was my assignment to work. And next. So before I started work on the project, I tried to see what's around and how people live and what they create, because that's very important when you work with crafts, because craft is something that is very cultural, very traditional, and it's very rich, and it is passed on from generation to generation. If a stranger goes out and intervenes, it becomes you're intruding their privacy or their space, and it's not a good sign, I guess. So it's for me it was very I was very intrigued because the space was also kind of created a certain sense of what do you say, because of the conflict and other things. When you go there for the first time with a preconceived notion, it kind of puts you in a different place, and when you're interacting with people also, it keeps you that distance. And how do you break that barrier and work with them? So first I spent few days looking at different things, understanding what their culture is. Next. Visiting mosque, and they're quite open. You can just walk in anywhere, be with them. So it was not a kind of barrier that you feel when you go there, okay? It's not. You just walk in, talk to them, smile, and it works. Next. Next. And I started seeing these crafts, and it's quite... this is a craft called Khatamban. It's a wooden tiling system which is put on the ceiling. Something like that. It's constructed piece by piece and put together. It's a very intricate craft because it's geometry, and everything has to be really precise, and everything is handcrafted. This is another craft called Pinjrakari. Can you go back? Yeah. It's a lattice work, and they're pieces put together, again constructed. It's not laser cut, and yeah. Next. And there are these beautiful, colorful paintings, which is called paper mache painting technique, which is traditionally used on architecture. And these beautiful textiles that we make on pashmina, right, from hand embroidery. This is sojini, and it is meticulously hand stitched, and it's mostly practiced by men. When you see this craft, you feel that women make stitching, but when you go there, there are men who are making these beautiful shawls, and each shawl takes around a year to finish. And there's another craft which is Kani shawls. It's also pashmina. As you know, pashmina is not, it's in wool, but it's not twisted into threads and woven. It's a strand of just fiber which is put on the loom, so it's very fragile while they're weaving. Next. So it's like that, which goes into the loom. So it's really fragile. And when you look at this and look at the final product, the transformation is very great. And since it's completely transforms it. Can you see? I just have to move, I guess. So pashmina mostly comes from Ladakh, the raw wool, and it goes to Kashmir where it is transformed into beautiful products. So after seeing this, I feel it's a simple thing. It's not very complex when you look at each aspect of the process. It's really simple, and they're all using only hands to make everything, and such beautiful products. So I would define something simplicity is like a twisted fiber making a strand. So That is as basic as I can say it myself. So next. So I'll just briefly take you through the assignment that I was given to design. And when I went there, this is the kind of furniture they make. Heavily carved, because that is their skill. They make furniture. And furniture is not traditionally the product that they were making. They were making smaller bowls, boxes, and mostly carving on the architecture, pillars and aspects like that. And furniture is mostly influenced by the colonial influence. And over a period of time, the form and structure of the furniture was not maintained because it never came from that place. So they had this colonial furniture which over a period of time distorted into different kinds of shapes. And the only thing that stayed intact was the carving, the patterns, the motifs on the chairs, which didn't change. So when I went there, the only thing that they asked us that can we make good furniture, knockdown furniture, because these are all heavy and they cannot ship it, they cannot sell large amounts so that to make more business. So we looked into the aspect. Next. And I studied how they work. So when you see the way the work is that they embarrass the work. It's not like a thing that goes into a machine and comes out. They are with the work. It's like he's on the table and carving the table. So next. And this is something like a door. Again, they're doing carving, but everyone is working on one big piece and everyone is contributing to it. And it has to all come together well. Next. Next. And they use these tools, very simple, very basic, nothing more exciting than just, even kids can use those tools. These are not like high-tech machines that you need to be an engineer or someone to operate this. And what they create out of it is really beautiful and exquisite. So this is one product that we developed. When you look at this thing, will you call this minimal? No. Okay, next. If you look at this, will you call this minimal? Next. Is this minimal? But the first slide, when you see, you don't say it's minimal. But now this is next. And this is completely wood and this is completely knocked down. So how do we bring in craft and minimalism together? Because that's the example I just showed you. So that was one of my first chairs in craft in Kashmir. And it became quite a success because when I went there, there's a knockdown. Then we thought we'll use knockdown fixtures and make knockdown furniture. But they're not used to using knockdown fixtures. And for using knockdown fixtures, you need precision and machines and things to being a product inconsistent. So I looked into what are the techniques they use. So they have all the tools that they have. They make this nice threading. It's called chudi there locally. They make large wooden threads, which are used for making a few smaller products. So we try to use that. We kind of used our design and engineering into it so that when you lock it, it's locked and it's firm. And it works well. So yeah, next. And the next project after Katamband was another craft called Pinjarakari. It's a lattice work. And this craft took me by awe again because from the day one I visited Kashmir. You see it all over in all the buildings in different forms. And it's very geometric, and I was a very fan of geometry and structures and solid geometry. So most of my forms, if you see, it's very, very geometric and very linear. So this was a craft that I wanted to work and see about how we can take it forward, because it's mostly used in architecture and it's a languished craft. There is no artisanal family that is practicing this craft. This from inside, that picture was from outside. So this is how it looks. Yeah. So I started again, this was the second project, and I proposed this project to the government that I want to revive this craft and bring it in its actual form, the way it was practiced long back. Nowadays, the few people who make this, but they don't make it the way it should be. Next. So I visited a lot of places, documented all the crafts, all the places where this was available to see, because you don't get to see new pinjaras. Yeah, so if you see these crafts, just stop here. Next. Yeah. So on the left you see the finished jali work. You see one triangle is missing there. So that particular triangle is that piece. And that is the scale. And and it is constructed like that. So it's all joints. It's constructed. It's all lap joints, and there's no glue. There's no nail, and it is just construction. And the small piece is easy to make, but when you start putting them together, it becomes really complex. It's like you are actually weaving wood together. And when I looked at these things, I thought it will be a very difficult task to revive the craft, because there's no family from the traditional practice that still does this, because those families are not there anymore. And the people who are doing it today are doing it very crudely, and they are the walnut artisan and other carpenters who just repair the old work and try to create this one in a new format using machines. But they're very crude and very rough. So we went to those people because they're practicing. We thought we'll bring back these practices in a traditional form, bring back to make them the way it was made. They said, no, we don't want to make, because it takes a really long time. It needs to have a really good understanding of geometry, construction. And so then we thought, okay, let's start making ourselves. So we started replicating some designs to understand how difficult it is to make. So these were the pieces that we started making, and it was really tough. It's not so easy. Next. So if you see, there are motorized tendons, and the scale is like this small, like it's 3/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch section, which is been constructed. So if you see, there's a lot of gaps here. What I showed you before, the original ones, they were like very neatly done. So with all my AutoCAD 3D renderings and all my laser cuts and templates, we were not able to achieve the craftsmanship that was done by hand. Next. We succeeded in some, which was very simple, and some we failed completely. So we thought, how do we revive this craft? So we thought, we'll start making only the triangles instead of making large pieces. So let's keep this basic module. Let's make the triangle perfect the way it was made, and try to incorporate the triangle and make products which will give them a higher perceived value in the product, so that they can start making them at least. So there is some initiative to practice the craft the way it is. So again, I fall back to geometry. I made 3D geometry, and we made this little icosahedron, and we inserted these triangles. These are 3D renderings. This project is still going on since last 5 years, because there's no artisan coming forward to take it up. So next. So these are a few ideas that we took forward to them and showed them. So basically working with one single module and trying to create a lot of things with a higher perceived value, so that at least you can sell them. So if you saw the craft in the beginning, it looks very minimal on the craft. It's very geometric. Then you see the process, which is really complex. Again, and in the process, I thought we should make it really simple to make it, instead of trying to make very complex products. So now I take you to Tripura. Again, this place is very contrast to what Kashmir is. Kashmir is very rich in culture and traditions. Next. Tripura, it's like, it's simple, it's very basic, bare minimum, the way they live. And it's the way of life. And the way of life for them is bamboo. And there are other states in Northeast. So Tripura is one place that I went first. So when you get off at the airport at Tripura, and when you start just going on the road, you get to see these things. Houses made out of bamboo, fencing, and just stay back. Yeah. If you see, here I just put two things together, because you see a very fine and small bird cage and a big house, all made with the same material, with the same tool, with the same hands, just to see the versatility of that material. Next. Yeah, very simple. Next. And these are houses and the process. Very nicely, neatly done, and it's quite clean and very basic, very simple. It's not very ornate like and that's in Kashmir. It's in Kashmir. Everything is celebrated. Here, everything is kind of, it's optimal. It's not exuberant. Next, yeah. So since it's a way of life and bamboo is an everyday material, they grow their own bamboo like their vegetables. So they don't depend on forest resources. So that's in a way in the Northeast is quite good because they understand it, they grow it and they use it. So you see it everywhere. So then again I started to, because here I went on assignment to teach artisans to understand how design works. How a designer designs a product, makes a prototype, refines it and gets into the market. And if a designer has to work with an artisan, how he has to understand and how he can contribute in the whole process. So that was my assignment and this was my first hands-on working with bamboo, because here I was also hands-on working. In Kashmir it was, they were working and I was just kind of giving my inputs. So I looked into the craft. They make very fine baskets. Next, some interesting nice mudas. And they basically use one knife and nothing else. So this was at an institute called BCDI, Bamboo and Cane Development Institute in Agartala. So there were these artisans who were trained there. So I made the drawings and they just replicated the drawings. And in the process I taught them what goes through behind it. And since this was my first hands-on, then I understood what the material can do and how it can be transformed into different shapes and forms. So this was my first chair that I made working with the artisans. It was not a design project, so I quickly draw a few things, showed them and they started making. So here I used strips and solid pole and we bent them mostly and put them together. Yeah, next. So I finished that assignment teaching them, and before I was leaving I thought I should get back something with me. I was so excited with the material that I wanted to carry something with me back. So I had made this tool, it's a tensegrity tool. So I wanted to replicate this tool which is on the left in bamboo completely. So while doing that, there was a triangular seat. So while making the triangular seat, I kind of used bamboo in a certain way that it can become a triangle. And next. And the triangle had a very strong character and property in terms of its structural stability. So I came back with the triangle. So these were the artisans and the students, and I just came back with the stool, happy. Yeah, next. Yeah, so this is the triangle. This weighs around 300 grams, and it can actually take your load. And I've tested it, I think, till people who weigh more than around 150 kgs. And you put load and it works, and it's quite comfortable. You need to get used to it. But once you get used to it, it works well. So if you look at this after. So I was excited to use this construction technique. So what I did here was, yeah, go back to the, yeah. So my observation from Tripura visit was crafting is nothing but its effective use of tools. Very minimal again, one knife, one material, and you create a vast range of products, however complex they look. So it's as minimal as you can get. So crafting for me is that if you are crafting something, it has to be really basic. Next. So I came back with the triangle and I wanted to start making products to make it usable in some form. So the first product I made was a bench. Next. So basically I put a lot of those triangles together. And next. This was the first prototype, it's a small unit, yeah. So here I combined steel and bamboo, and it's a complete knockdown structure, and it works again on principle of the suspension bridge construction, where there's a lot of tension and force is applied. Yeah, next. Then I explore different shapes to see how stable is a structure in different forms. Next. Next. So I wanted to use in different ways, maybe making small shelters, stools, furniture, and more functional like a crutch. Yeah, so that happened. Then there was a project where I was invited to Tripura to design a range of furniture. Then I thought I should take this concept further and develop the product range. And I went there, and with a lot of preparation, I was based in Bangalore then, and we had to make each and every thing from Bangalore and take it there, because it's very remote in Tripura. If you want to buy a particular nut or a bolt or a screw, you have to get down to maybe Guwahati or Calcutta, and it'll kind of stop your work in middle of nowhere. So I'd made this large drawings 1:1. Next. Yeah, so the triangle become a chair then, and next, and a sofa with a combination of these elements. And when I was making all these products, all the artisans who've been working with bamboo for a long time, they said, "Sir, ये तो टूट जाएगा, so it won't take your load. It's too thin and too fine." And yeah, he was the first one to say, "No, टूट जाएगा, बनाएंगे, it'll just fall apart." So I said, "You are the first one going to use the chair and sit on it and test it out." And yeah, he was a heavy guy, so and it worked. So he was quite happy. Yeah, next. So this is the way we worked. We took all these drawings, which are like big sheets, and some corrections happened locally there. We kind of patchworked. As we started working, we got to understand how we can manipulate the material, and changed accordingly. So these were the initial first prototypes. And I had built a system of jigs and fixtures that we can put it on plywood and create these shapes, so there is consistency in the forms. Because when I'm using a lot of sections, so each section needs to be really precise for them to come together when you're putting it, and everything is made by hand. Yeah, next. So again, this is not meant for sitting, but we were just kind of trying to see the strength. So after the project happened, it never got commercialized. They promised we'll take it to the market, we'll do a lot of things. I worked almost 2 years on this project, and it never shaped up. So then I refined everything up. These are 3D renders. I came back to my studio, worked on it based on my inputs from the prototypes and how they behave. So refined the whole collection. Next. And that year we sent it to Red Dot on recommendation of an intern who was working with me. "Sir, you should send this, you send it." And he registered my name and sent it on my behalf. And one fine day I get this email from Red Dot that you have won the award. So, and that was the best of the best. Thank you. And we won best of the best in all categories. And the award was not given to a particular product, but the way the bamboo was used in that collection. So these were the first set of products. Some of them are here. And later, then I started my company to produce these products, because once we won the award, people started calling me, emailing me, "Where can we buy these?" And for a long time, I was also thinking to set up my own furniture facility to make, but I was not sure what kind of furniture I need to make. I didn't want to make metal and wood furniture, because a lot of people were already making, and I don't want to be another one making the same kind of furniture. I think when this thing happened, I felt the calling came in that, okay, now this is what you need to start making. So in 2010, I set up my facility in Bangalore to produce these crafts, this furniture for the market. So next. So we started working. I thought since I'm getting so many requests, I should be able to make them immediately and sell and make money. No. I got the artisans from Tripura, and we started designing the whole collection. We started refining it. And why we couldn't immediately commercialize it? Because artisans are good with bamboo, but this kind of work they never done before. So they understand the material very well. They work very quickly, very fast. But we need to guide them at every stage. So it took me almost 2 years for them to train. And also took me 2 years to develop the complete range, refine it over and over, because this chair came after 10 prototypes of chairs. So it took me almost 1 year, and we make these chairs and test it in our studio only. We use them every day and see what works, what not works. Next. So on the process, we developed a lot of jigs and fixtures for a particular product, and saw how to create consistent production, because every artisan makes it in his own way. So how do we bring in that consistency? So I think the design was quick to make on the paper, a tree, a table and all. But trying to convert that drawing into a finished project was a design process by itself. I think that's where my industrial design inputs came in. So we were designing actually the process, the hardware to make the product. Next. 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 So if you see, it's like go stage by stage. It's a very laborious process, and it's very lengthy. Next. Next. So this is like a batch production. So we figured out how to create. These are like some 6 bookshelves put together. So it looks like it's an extrusion piece just came out of a machine. So after 2 years, we were able to achieve this kind of consistency, but it was still a very slow process. Next. Next. Yeah, so I'll take you through the complete collection, what and how it looks right now. Then I'll get back to you how we kind of tackled the process. Next. Next. Yeah, next. Next. So everything is complete. There's no metal component, or everything is made out of bamboo. Then bamboo nails, and the weaving on the chair is paper here. Next. This is that bookshelf that first time showed. It's a refined version. Next. This is the same thing, a wall mount. Here we try to introduce color because we got a project from a boutique hotel in Beijing, and it was an old Buddhist temple that was restored and converted into a cultural space. It had art galleries like this, and a 8-room boutique hotel, and they wanted furniture in that. So they wanted some bit of red color in it, in the furniture, because it was an old Buddhist temple. There was a lot of red, Chinese associated red with good vibes. So they wanted that. So I again said, how do we get color? Because I started painting. Paint kind of covers bamboo. You don't see the bamboo itself. So we looked into Chennapatna next door. We got the lacquer, because Chennapatna used the lacquer on a lathe while they're turning. And we thought, how do we apply this on a flat surface? So we experimented and created our own method to apply this lacquer, and it's painfully long to get the richness in the color. It takes almost like 10 or 15 coats to get the redness that you need. Next. So, but this is how it looks after we made, so it's quite exciting to see. And with color, it creates another dimension in the product. A lot of people say, we just want to buy the product and we don't want to put books in it. We just want to have the product as it is. So it's like, yeah. Next. Yeah, some experiments and all. Next. So these are products for kids. And while I was designing products for kids, I thought, because the products that you get in market are all plastic, and they don't last more than 6 months. Our kids just fed up with like 3 days or 4 days. It's done. So how do we increase the life of a product? So the idea here was to make it more sculptural, so you don't throw it away. It still works without the kid playing, and you can still use it. Maybe to put books or just to sit on, and because I can use this as a stool, works. I can put a glass top, it'll be a nice side table. So you can use the product, so it's sculptural, it stays. So the idea behind doing this was that, and we are developing a range of products now for kids, which is mostly a range of animals and birds that can just be there. Next. Next. Yeah, so If I put it together in very simple words, minimalism is engineered simplicity, I guess. Do you agree with it? Next. So I'll just take you through one chair and one process. Now, if you see this, can you take the next slide? Okay. Now, this chair, this side frame is made out of two bamboo poles, one on the left and one on the right. So this pole and this pole is the same piece. So what you see, it's split and open and it's bent like that. Okay. And here there's a lot of selection because the distance between this hole and this hole has to be the same. Since it's a natural material, the knots vary by few maybe inches or So we need to do a lot of selection while you're making this chair. So we actually measure bamboo knot to knot, figure out the right pieces, and we start making these pieces. And this one is this piece, which goes from here to here. Next. Then we have the triangles, which come separately. Next. And they're put together. So the first chair I made, they were all different pieces. This was one piece, this was one piece, this was one piece, and this was one piece. And there were a lot of joints, and the consistency was going away, and we had to figure out. So like after 5th prototype or 6th prototype, we realized we have to make it in one piece. We cannot make it in small pieces and put them together. So reduce as less material as possible, like one pole or two poles, not more than that. So next. And every process and every stage, it has to be bent, cleaned, finished, then put over to the next layer. So that was again taking away a lot of time and process. So we had to actually develop a lot of jigs to reduce the making process and putting it together. Next. So chair looks in the process something like that. It looks like a Frankenstein monster somewhere, but it looks quite beautiful, I guess. It's quite abstract. Yeah, at end you get something like this, which is after it's finished, it's like a piece of art, I guess. Next. Yeah. So here, while we are making last slide, we have hardwares that we specially developed. So the idea is when people started to call me from all over the world, it was just not India, and I was trying to push the finish, the quality, and the production of to a certain quality that it looks, when you touch and feel it, looks like it just come out of a machine-made factory and no hand has touched it, kind of a feeling. So that was the objective, to achieve the quality and finish in the products. Because bamboo has always been looked at as a very inferior material. No? People, when they say bamboo furniture, why is it so expensive? When they see my furniture, it should be really cheap because the bamboo guy who's selling it is really cheap. I said, why don't you go and buy that furniture? But it took me a long while because clients or people who have seen my product in the Western countries, they just look at a picture in my magazine or the website, they just order it. I don't know what they think while they do it, but I think they have, evolved over a period of time the value and the craftsmanship, the design they can, appreciate. Next. Yeah, so this is a lacquering process. It's all hand applied, layer by layer. It takes almost 15 days to get the richness. So every day he adds one layer to the whole bookshelf. And this is only made to orders, so the coloring. So it's really painful and it's really expensive. Next. So I had to train a local guy to polish because I started to work with the polish artisans from the wood polish guys. They would actually come and say, sir, you are working in bamboo, you have to pay me so much more because it's bamboo. And they would do their own formula. What they do in wood, they put putty and that and this, and they give me a bad job. Then I said, no, I'm not going to work with, I'm going to train my own artisans again to polish and finish and achieve what I want. Yeah, so thank you.
Any more questions? Can we close? Okay. Mr. Sangaru, thank you so much for not just coming here and showing us your products, but also the process that goes into it, because most people don't want to reveal that for some reason, but this has, I think, taught us a lot about the process that you go through. Thanks a lot for taking the time off to do this. We have a little something for you. We didn't make it, but thank you.